Hi, how are we again? Now I got a RDA letter stating the just compensation from the redevelopment authority is $100. Now, mind you, the property taxes are more than that per year, and I've been making the property taxes, paying the loan money that I borrowed to buy the house and remodel the house, and they want to offer me $100. So naturally, I was livid and confused. And I contacted Tasco's office and the RDA, and I sent them a letter saying that this was not acceptable, not even close. Right? They paid some of my neighbors back in the late 80s, early 90s, $50,000 to $60,000 plus relocation money. Now I'm going to take, after all this time, $100? I don't think that's legal. So I contact HUD, 2 senators, the office of the president, 3 congressmen, state senator, mayor, city council, and other officials. I also contacted another lawyer about the case, and he declined it. I contacted the RDA, the OHCD, Petro, Dark Green mayor, and told them that the $100 was very shy of what this property was worth. Now, mind you, this property was 3 apartments and a storefront. 2 storefronts, I'm sorry. I went down to L&I, pulled the records, and it was listed as 2 storefronts. So therefore, $100, you can't even buy a trash can with a lid. A good trash can for $100. Okay, I contacted newspapers, I contacted attorneys, contacted and all these people, and they're all assuring me it's just wait and see, we'll take care of you. Now, the next article is 6/24/05 Daily News, Philadelphia Daily News. That could be any one of us, Dick Saha. No, Saha said. Get busloads of people to pick out in front of the Supreme Court. Let them know that it feels all those justices don't live in the areas and they don't have to worry about condemnation. There's collection letters for the Queen and Seal building. Seal of the building for the tinning of the windows, collection letters. Now again, this was told to me that this would be taken care of. Now they're affecting my credit rating. All sorts of letters to congressmen over the years in the president's office and mayors and governors, and it's interesting fact that the mayor of Philadelphia went on to be the governor of Pennsylvania. So you would think he would have the power to do something about this issue, especially since the governor's office was involved in this from the beginning. Okay, they're all letters. And there's an article in the Philadelphia, or in the PN. An injustice is an injustice, no matter who you are. Dr. Turner had 3 signs on his building describing his fight with the city of Philadelphia. They didn't pay him either. He was in one of the groups that was not politically friendly to the mayors. And because he was objecting by putting signs on his building. What kind of stress do you have to be under that you actually erect a sign that's approximately 20 feet tall by 10 foot wide on your building asking for government aid? And it was up there for years. It's well documented in the papers. One of the signs said no pay No way, no pay, had to stay 20 years. That kind of sets it all. And he was in the paper, and the sign was visible from Route 1, all the way down Route 1. This is a tragedy. This should never have happened. And it's still happening. And the reason it's still happening is because they have a policy that if you die, your children do not inherit the bill. So therefore, they don't have to pay anyone if you die while waiting for the money. This happened in a case with a pharmacy around the corner from Dr. Turner. The kids sued, and they couldn't get a dime. Imagine your parents working their whole life to leave a business and a rental property to you, and then they die. The government has your property, and nobody pays you. Only in America. Now, I receive a notice in December 2012 that the government has taken my property. Now, this is after communication with the redevelopment authority over the years. Now, mind you, I'm working several jobs, paying my bills, paying for a house that I can't even occupy, and paying for a house that I can occupy, keeping all my bills paid. But the city doesn't pay their bills. The federal government doesn't pay their bills. The state doesn't pay their bills. Puzzling. I get a notice that the city has transferred the title. Now, this is important because just compensation in eminent domain means that they are negotiating with you to buy your house. When they change the title without payment, it's like you walking out of Kmart with the sneakers on and trying to claim that you're negotiating a better price. Now, mind you, it is now the beginning of February 2015. They've had the property since 2012. They still haven't paid me a dime for my house, or the expenses that were negotiated that they would pay me, or the interest. Now you can understand why I have filed a federal lawsuit. I have a letter from the city that came a month after they were offering me $100 for the property. The city appraised the vacant land that is my former house at $9,900 and I believe $90. The city is telling me that the land is worth $100. Doesn't sound fair either, does it? I've been shaking my head so much that he should make a bobblehead of me. One thing I told a friend the other day, I wish they would have had a get acquainted party for me and the telephone pole that they were about to shove up my butt in 1994, because I certainly would have picked a smaller diameter telephone pole. It's been very hard. Now, I contact senators. I have letters back from senators. In fact, I have some of these government officials told me to stop contacting them. I also went to a lot of redevelopment authority meetings because I got laid off from my job. And I saw them giving away property. They have this side yard thing where if you can demonstrate that you have the adjacent side yard, they give you the land in a rather ritzy neighborhood like Northern Liberties for a song. Well, they had one proposal where the guy had 4 side yards on one side of the house and about 3 on the other side, and they were still giving him discounts for these side yards. Quite obviously, somebody's preparing to buy the whole block, and we're talking an area where homes can be up to $1 million a piece, and he's getting the land for next to nothing. I don't want to, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, you do the math. I deliver several speeches at the Redevelopment Authority, and they're not included in the minutes. Why is that? Don't want to have to actually admit that you heard this from me. There was an employee at the Redevelopment Authority who told me I'm going to take the fucking $100. Pardon my French. They told me you're going to take the effing money, and they didn't say effing. This is how the government treats you. With respect. Meanwhile, the Redevelopment Authority, unbeknownst to me, is telling me they're going to get me legal representation. They're going to get me legal representation, but they never did. And what they were doing was running out the clock, in my opinion. They were running out the clock until I had no chance to appeal this decision of them taking my property. They knew I didn't have a lawyer. They required a lawyer to appeal it. And it would have been appealed to a kangaroo board consisting of board members. So they aren't going to tell themselves that they can't do what they're doing. Love America. The Founding Fathers would shoot us all if they knew what we allowed to happen. Thomas Jefferson said, to the tune of the 2 biggest enemies of the people are criminals and government. So he said, let's tie the government, up in the chains of Constitution so they won't become a legalized version of the first. In other words, criminals. How wise was this man to write this a couple hundred years ago? He could see what would happen. It's almost as if he could peer into the future. So anyway, so then after in December of 2013, after realizing that they weren't going to pay me, I issued a letter to them demanding that the original deal. I want the value of the house. I want all the expenses I paid plus interest. I want lost rents. Everything that qualifies as just compensation. They answered me that they weren't going to pay me. Mind you, this is a year after they took my property. A year after they walked out of Kmart with the sneakers, they still haven't paid for it. They're still negotiating the price. I wish I could get sneakers that way. I wish everybody could get a flat screen TV that way. A year later and you still haven't paid for it, and you're talking with the person about, hey, would you like some money for this? Now I've had it for a year, maybe I should give you something, but it isn't going to be what you want. This is not legal. This is not the way the government is supposed to work. Again, another video will follow. This is Joe the Mechanic 5 at gmail.com. Thank you for your